6, which is the fiscal year operating budget, which covers not only operating for the kind of overhead as well as pond. And we don't seem to have any input. Go to that administers, okay?
Yeah.
You'll see that from fiscal year 2015 budget to the fiscal year 2016 budget, they went up about $4,000, a little over $4,000, which is 11%. Operational administrative services, when you take a look at those, I'm on agenda page 66. John, you got it? If issue an over to, from 2015 budget to 2016 budget by over $6,000, 25%. The operating expenses, again, where we have no control apparently, or we don't seem to get any input, they went from 62,000 up to 72,000, so almost a $10,000 increase. That's almost 16%. So we're getting socked with additional overhead, if you will. This is I always look at that, upon that as being the gateway. See over, and we have into that. Give us an input on that.
They did a flat, it's to be or not total. Now I'm not aware of what they would be their overhead.
Yeah.
I don't really think that our percentage has changed, or I haven't seen anything to indicate
the
that.
operate-
But I think that the thing is that their costs increase, obviously, even if it's the same, our costs are going to increase as well.
Yes.
If you look at the operating expenses, that increase is due entirely to attorney fee, 10,000 to 20,000.
Yep.
Well,
Okay,
and,
what's going on there?
okay, I thought, but, whatever litigation we're going with, they may have determined that we needed to have a higher budget for legal. For instance, that settlement with RWA
Yep.
that
We benefited from.
Okay.
we sort of benefited from. The legal expenses
Oh, yeah.
of some probably significant dollars associated with that are directly attributable to Pelican. So out of that 90, which is a quarter to begin with out of bond funds, take the attorney fees out of that 90.
I can tell you that all the legal bills, as far as they are divided off the percentage, but as far as the legal bills, if it's directly one can pay like it's
Yes.
across the rest of Gateway. At least that's the way I've seen it, because when I review the bills, or the journal entries, every sure I see what's hitting our account. And whenever there's a big number, it is because, with, in regards to legal, it all that's direct to Pelican Preserve.
And the same thing,
We racked up some, we paid to the community that we paid for out of the bond fund. As you said, we just got a settlement from RWA.
Yeah.
It was determined we couldn't sue, the old Pelican Preserve, but we were able to go after RWA.
Right.
the other
And I
thing,
mean, maybe Scott can speak to that a little, that the bills that, I've always received, and actually I think that we've discussed this before, or it's been discussed in maybe just the regular gateway, is that if it's a particular, whatever entity, so say if it was Stony Brook that incurred a legal thing, Stony Brook would be paying those legal expenses. It's kind of not like a payroll expense would be, or, any engineering or whatever. The legal stuff is if it's particular to one neighborhood, it's hit with that fee.
and the same,
So
and
it
Chris,
impacts them.
the same thing as the engineer.
Yep, Dr.
Well, of course,
Peggy was
that,
saying,
yeah,
right.
that was a four, you're right,
But
but you're
so-
right, that was for,
17.
So far.
In these suits that are going
Or
on.
they're protected, yeah.
So
it's-
overrunning last year's, it is, let's be
Let's
safe
double
and
it
put in
because-
20, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so they
'Cause that's what
probably
it ran
upped us,
last year, right.
yeah.
That's why it went to 20.
Putting probably better
We
item
expect
numbers.
next year.
Well, on behalf of ponds, I expect that to be reduced,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
resolved.
at 20, we go back to 10.
I will say that we can budget. Ponds comes up with its budget, and then the thing just, we have to that. It's-
One of the things that we might do going forward is make sure that we know from Severn Trent or directly from Tony or from the engineer what they think, what their estimate for Pelican is, so we have a better idea, because that's where the numbers are coming from that the supervisors start with
Yes.
when they budget. So I have no idea what Tony or the engineer would have said.
Yep.
Scott, do you?
Scott?
Well, I just want to say that during the review process, Steve and staff get it in direction we can with things that we know that are coming up. It has been special attorneys' fees, engineering fees are being allocated correctly to the specific neighborhood, and the percent has not changed. Might made some adjustments one way or the other.
Yeah, Gateway's budget's
All,
significant.
but, you know, when you say you don't have any every board meeting, so opportunity.
Well, there's still
if
the
you will.
hearing. There's a
That was an opportunity.
hearing, right?
We have the hearing on the 20th.
So, at the hearing.
And that's a final public hearing.
Yep,
Yep.
okay.
So we've been
The
working on
numbers-
this for 3 months.
I understand.
Okay.
The numbers.
Right, they-
Now, the budget that was passed by the G is
1.9 or whatever it is.
10.91% higher than last year. There.
So, our flat on, would expect, because that,
Yeah, all
yeah.
lumped in.
That's right, that's right. It looked to me like jumped a lot now. Understand that a lot of those were expenses for most of it. Okay. Try that.
Have on interest and indicated $61,000. That is just on what?
Off of what is so amazing to me that number was
Well,
there.
that's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Right, because I had some questions, and I think that I had forwarded out these, where we could, I think it was brought up that have our reserves into more, without nothing, that means try to move it somewhere. To
Well,
me,
your
I really
reserve
don't.
account have O's in it, but
Well,
it
yeah.
doesn't already. And
Well,
as far as I could tell
higher
from
If you look
this year, we didn't get any interest on that, or very little.
Right, and that's what shows, but so maybe it's because the way it's recorded, and maybe they don't record it at the end of the final adjustments. I'm not quite sure when, but I know that the amounts that I recorded for interest so far are the amounts that have been going through the GSTD, budgets or reports that he's, submitted, or that have been submitted to the board. So that's where I think I had $282 recorded through, April 30th.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's been very minuscule as compared to the 10,000 that he has there. So my only guess would be, because this was their first full fiscal year of being our management company or managing, group.
Yeah, right, but,
They had taken this over, so I'm thinking that maybe are they just trying to figure out where to put these monies, and this is what they're gonna do going forward.
I mean, at the last meeting, somebody was supposed to find out what we could actually invest those funds in. Are there any
Right,
restrictions?
well, actually, that, I had sent him a bunch of questions, and I actually had forwarded all that to you through, Diane, through email, when Stephen answered it. And he said that, question number 3, I said, a question was raised at today's meeting, meaning the June 18th meeting, requesting clarification on what types of interest-bearing accounts are used by the district, basically questioning why such little interest has been received on such a large balance of funds, i.e. the 282 has been recorded year-to-date through 4/30/2015. And his response was, at the board's direction, we recently opened a new type of money market account with Iberia, which will earn some extra interest. We can also take a look at some CDs for longer-term funds. So I guess my feeling with that was, is since this was their first year, they probably just let things go as they were to figure out,
Well, you can't let things go as they were if there are monies like $10,000 or $20,000 involved.
Yeah.
Okay, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely
Right.
ridiculous.
Just as a matter of interest, Stephen's analysis, which is on agenda page 684, we will have a beginning reserve balance in fiscal 2016 of $621,475.
yeah.
And we will add another, well, I guess that won't happen till the end of the year, but by the end of the year, we'll have 867,000, and that doesn't include the interest, I guess.
Yeah, right.
That's correct.
So we-
that my only feeling about when I saw the interest number, I thought, well, that must be because they're looking in, that was kind of in his response, that they're gonna take a look at some CDs for longer term,
mean-
funds needing higher interest.
I mean, the bottom line,
Maybe
you
they
know,
were just throwing out that number.
yeah, the bottom line to me is that they haven't done their job, okay? You have a big pile of money sitting there, earning 0%.
But this implies that they're giving us, or crediting us with $10,000.
Well, she
This
made up
year.
that
Budget.
number, she made up that number.
Chris, you made up that number?
No.
No, this
No,
is-
Stephen
No.
did.
Yeah.
Stephen
Stephen.
Bloom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Stephen Bloom.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Stephen
based on
Bloom.
this
Oh,
new
did.
account,
Okay.
they're estimating we're gonna make $10,000 interest,
Interest.
Okay.
on
No,
that
that's-
600,000.
that's
$600,000.
estimating That if we're
Yeah.
estimating
Oh,
that
that's
they're
good
gonna,
enough.
we're gonna make $10,000 for fiscal year 2016, why didn't we make anywhere close to that for fiscal year 2015?
Well, yeah, that was my question
That's the right
last
question,
meeting.
there you go,
That was the question I asked last time.
There you go.
Right, exactly, and that was what his response was to my question.
Mhm.
It said at the board's direction, we recently opened a new type of money market account with Iberia, which will earn some extra interest.
Right.
We can also take a look at some CDs for longer term funds. That
So-
was his response
Well-
to my question of.
Well, I would like to find out what the interest rate is on the money that we have invested.
Okay.
Then you can all answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that should
and
be an easy thing for
Chris,
me to answer.
The other follow-up question to what Stephen said is, so if that's what we're gonna do in the future, we wanna know the rates and so forth, but what kind of an account was it in before? Was it in any kind of an interest-bearing
was a
account?
simple money
Simple
market
money
account.
market,
Money
at
market.
0.01% or something.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it was in a money market account.
Bingo, instead of short-term
If-
It's not a very
CDs or
high yielding
something, right,
account.
something.
Yeah, if you recall, we prompted this discussion, it was either the May or the June board meeting,
Yeah.
when we specifically asked for the authority to put our reserves into something special. That's
Right.
where it all
And
started.
actually,
Before
that was
that,
my next question to him was, is it possible to place our reserve funds in a separate interest-bearing account? Because we thought that was the right thing to do. And his response to that was, I don't believe a separate bank account would be required for this. We keep track and show the reserve funds as a separate line item on the balance sheet. Well, we understand that, but at the same time, if these funds are not going to be used, then maybe they should be put in a higher yielding, fund of some sort.
and I
Well,
believe
Well,
that's what the board
that's-
approved,
yeah,
is
and-
to investigate the kinds of instruments that we were legally allowed to invest in.
Oh, okay, and we don't have the answer to that question, is that
They
correct?
didn't have the answer at the meeting, Herb, but the board liked the idea of it, so they were, I don't know whether they got the direction to Cal,
like the idea.
to Stephen, or to Tony, to investigate those things that we could legally put it in, because apparently there are restrictions.
Yeah, they probably are.
The other comment I have about agenda page 84 is the projected ending balance of fiscal year 15 being 621,475. That has a lot of ponds money that we are planning on spending this year.
What?
No, Bob,
So
that's
that's
not,
not all
that's the
capital
reserve.
reserves.
Wait a minute.
no, that's,
No,
no.
that's the
the
capital reserve.
balance. That's not our fund balance. That's only the reserve balance.
Yeah, Bob, I don't think, that's the money we've actually put in the capital
Into
reserve.
reserve.
We put that much in 2 years?
Well, we put in 105,000 one year,
Yeah.
And then 245.
and then 245 another year, and then another 245. So
Okay,
we're,
all right, then, I was wrong, that number was too close to the 600,000 that we had unaccounted for.
yeah,
Okay.
Right, yeah, that's.
Don't worry, Bob.
Different. That's completely separate.
that's different number,
Okay,
different number. Okay, further discussion on the budget.
Okay, I did have one other,
Yeah,
just
question.
housekeeping thing.
Yeah.
With the questions, that Herb had brought up from last month, the June meeting, we actually had relating to ponds, that we needed some clarification on a journal entry, from January of 2014, in the amount of $134,000, and that was basically just said reclassed or whatever. And so Bob and I wanted to make sure that it actually did belong to ponds money, and it was for 2 payments to Shenandoah for storm drain cleaning, and Bob verified that that was done. So, that 134 was added to the ponds, to our ponds, monies, and it's just not out there in limbo anymore. So we did incur that expense, because when we started putting things into QuickBooks, we were off by that journal entry, and we didn't want to put it into QuickBooks until we were sure that that really belonged to, the ponds group, and it did.
Nancy?
The question I have relates to the money that we got from the fire whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah, right.
Is that actual cash, or are those credits, or are they,
It's cash.
it's cash?
No, it's actually cash, and it's fire impact fees. It was not budgeted because I don't know that anybody knew it was going to be coming in. And so I think right now, it's up to like $69,000, and I think they're projecting it to be, a total of 79 for 2015.
So that's not the 90,000?
No,
No, that's
that's
another-
something
This is
different.
another 70,000?
Yeah, every time a building is built, there's an impact fee. And a while ago, the city turned back to us a bunch of credits that were totaled over $1 million that we were trying to sell. But WCI was selling some in the same market, and I don't know if any of those ever got sold. But every home that they build going forward, there is money that comes to us, and it has to be spent inside Pelican. It can't be for Greater Gateway. They get their own
And that-
impact fees.
And what Stephen has done is he has set that up as a separate income account, and I've done the same thing within QuickBooks called fire impact fees. I called it the same thing, and through July, it has been collected, or I guess we've made $69,830.
Okay, my question was, I know that we'd be getting some from the building construction that's going on, but there also was that $1.3 million or whatever it was out there in credits that came in, and I know Bill Guy was trying to shepherd it at one point to sell them, and we were competing against WCI. Scott,
At
do
the
you know?
one meeting that I was at, the one district meeting I was at, which was many, many months ago when this first came up, I don't think that they initially had them earmarked as just Pelican, and then they decided that yes, they did belong to just Pelican, and it sounded like they had to sell them at a huge discount.
Yeah, Scott,
Yeah, yeah.
Scott
Scott
has-
just-
I'm the
Scott-
keeper of that record,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
We started out with $1.5 million of impact fee credits. To date,
Some of them expire, so, or
we're
they all
down to,
expire at some point.
we have a remaining balance of, well, it's a little less than this now, but 1.4 million. So we've sold, about 100,000 to date.
Where does that money go, Scott? That's supposed to come to Pelican.
Yes. So we are, that's the balance. We are selling them at a 20% discount on the market, plus we're paying a broker 5% of
That's not
that
bad.
price.
That's not bad.
Okay, and we have been
So we
selling
get
them
75%.
to D.R. Horton, who's building over in Linsford. We sold some commercial for Waterman Broadcasting. Neal Communities bought some for a development called Watermark. And Watermark and Linsford, those two developments are our biggest client right now. We sold some for a church, a new church on Plantation Road within the city. So our, fire impact fees the value right now is $321, that's the fee for a single family home, and $241 for a multifamily.
So, can I clarify now? The money that we're talking about here, the 70,000 or whatever it is, that's for new construction, that's not for the sale of those.
That's for the sale of these.
That's for the sale of those.
That is what it said.
Oh, that is that money?
That is
That's
that money?
70,000?
Yes.
Yeah, that's about right. He sold
Oh,
100,000.
okay, no,
He sold
I just-
100,000.
I thought there was a different money.
So-
I didn't realize it was
So
the
when
same
do we
money.
start realizing from the sale of the new homes now?
Within Pelican,
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with this fund. Has nothing to do with this.
but there are impact fees with every new piece of new construction.
That goes to the city, that WCI or.
And then it would come back to us eventually.
Through the city.
Well, that's how we got the first ones, the city
Okay,
gave it back to
through
us.
the city. I'm just telling you what I'm selling.
So eventually, do I understand correctly, eventually, we will get the benefit of, we still have $1,400,000 worth of these credits left. We will get that $1.4 million less what we have to discount.
When do
Discount.
they expire, Scott? Because there was an expiration date on them.
Oh, gosh, I can look that up for you, I don't.
But
have
there
that
is,
at
there
my
is,
fingertips.
we may not
It's
get it
several
all.
years down the road.
I know it
Because-
comes up in April, but I don't know the exact.
I'll look it up for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give me a minute.
So that's 70,000.
It's estimated of income $70,000
Right.
to $80,000 a year.
Okay.
is that money being applied to the FY, but
That is-
where,
I believe Stephen's putting that as income.
income?
To that.
So that offsets our taxes by that $70,000. That's the, in other words, if our
That was-
budget's $1
that's
million,
that's
they
my
only have to
understanding.
collect $930,000 because of that 70,000.
Is that true, though? I don't think
I'm
that's
asking that
true.
question.
No, I don't think that's
No.
true. I think,
Does
I
that
think.
offset? I don't know where.
No.
Where's the
I don't, I,
70,000?
well, I don't know where the 70,000 goes, because I think,
I don't know where that goes.
going back to this thing, I think we are collecting, my sense of it is, that we are collecting the 2,000,000, what does the number come out to? 2,071,099, which you see on, agenda page 88, that we are collecting that amount in
Taxes.
in taxes and
Taxes.
assessments.
That's correct.
And in fact, just as an aside, if you then look at, these pages here, some things. If you look at the page that shows, yeah, it's agenda page 74, that shows the assessment summary. And it shows the number of EAUs we have
Mhm.
and the amount that's charged for each EAU.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, if you take those numbers and multiply them out, which I did, just for curiosity's sake, it turns out that they come in about $49,000 more than the 2,071,071 that's in the budget.
And the reason for that is the 4%.
Yeah, except it's only 2.4% more. That's what confused me. I've sent Stephen Bloom 2 emails
I-
asking him what that is.
I think that 4%, something happens to it, it's not a flat 4, because a lot of people pay their taxes early in
Yes.
Pelican, but not
Mhm.
everybody does.
Right.
And so 4% would be if everybody paid taxes early.
Mhm.
And then
Right,
it's a
that's the
gradual, I
discount.
think that's the,
That's the.
Yeah.
I
okay.
think that's the discount.
Well, that's what I thought it was, but he hasn't answered.
Okay.
So,
But in any
Well,
event.
Phil, when I seen your email, through Stephen or whatever, when I looked at that, it is the amount of the discount.
It is, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I think.
Okay.
I looked at the same thing. So it is-
Okay.
It is the amount of the discount.
Okay, but,
Okay, and then one other housekeeping item is that irrigation repairs and maintenance, which is account number 706524. It was discovered that we did not sign the maintenance agreement with Ameriscape, and I believe that it was $625 a month, and we had talked about this, and, I was gonna do an analysis after the last, meeting, and I believe I did that and sent it out to everybody. And, but of course, we've had some other expenses. So for fiscal year 2015, if we went with their, agreement, we would be spending $7,500 on the maintenance agreement, which is $625 a month.
right,
Okay? So keep that number in mind. This fiscal year to date, meaning 2015, we've spent so far through July $55.32. Okay? In fiscal year 2014, we spent $12,651. In fiscal year 13, we spent $6,300, and then in fiscal year 2012, we spent almost $12,000. So it seems like we needed it in 2 years and didn't need it. We don't need it this year, and we didn't need it in 2013. The question is do you want to have it for 2016?
well,
I
and
thought-
that's the reason I put that back, that apparently, all of you turned that down at the last meeting, I put it back on the agenda, in fact, it's the next item, number 5. My feeling is that it's kind of like an insurance policy, that we're better off having it than not having it.
Well, the reason I think we turned it down, and we may have had this discussion before you joined us.
Yes, before
But, is that, WCI went through and did something with the system that upgraded it throughout, and none of the neighborhoods are having as big an issue, and the master's not having an issue. Does that ring a bell with anybody else but me?
It did, it had something to do with like the, I don't know if they were, not the sprayers, but something about the minerals, there was something that they put some kind of filter, like water
Yes.
filter,
Yes.
that they use around the golf course, and they've done that throughout all of Pelican.
Yes,
And it says something to do with reducing the number of minerals, and I think even Bob had spoke to that, without the number of minerals in the water, then
Yeah, you
there's
get
not
a
as much of a
poultice and
need.
mineral deposits, and that's what screws up the rotors.
Yep.
Right, right, but we didn't know that that actually was done by WCI. I think Tracy actually enlightened us that that was already done.
Yes.
And then maybe that was, the reason for, the downturn from this year as opposed to last year, of why we weren't spending as much in irrigation. Because I
Okay.
think
Yeah, that
she said
sounds
that was
logical.
completed like about January, I believe she said it was done.
Okay, so we have, if I'm reading the right line, Chris, we have $9,700 in the budget?
Yes,
And that covers those kinds of repairs, I take it?
yes.
should,
Yeah.
So that 9,700 is more than
the 6,000
the
or so.
6,000 something, so this should give us plenty of slack, I guess, okay, I accept that.
Yes, but what I'm saying is in that 9,700, if we wanted to, we could, do the contract for 7,500, and that leaves 2,200 still in additional monies that we budgeted, but yet we would
Right.
have the contract. Now, I had asked Tracy a bunch of questions about, the agreement. Let me see if I can find my notes about that, because there was several things that I wanted to make sure that they were going to be covered. Let me see if I can find it.
In the meantime, can I
Yeah.
answer the impact fees expire April 1st, 2025.
2000.
Okay,
So we
Little
won't,
while.
so we have some time.
we won't worry about them too
Yeah.
much at this time.
But those numbers change over time,
Huh?
so we just need to keep track of it year by year.
But we're selling, what, 100K a year?
It depends on the
So
market.
10 years,
so-
that's,
Yeah,
that's,
I
know,
but
that's
that's,
right,
that's,
yeah.
so they'll, should be gone by
Sold
then.
8,000 this morning.
Should be.
Uh-huh.
It depends on how fast builders are building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And right now, they're building.
Right now, they're
So we should
building.
have a
The market's
So
decrease
hot.
it should be
market.
okay.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah, well, except that one could make the argument, if we sell 100,000 a year, we have 14 years left to go, and some of them will have expired.
What do we have left, 1.5 million or 1 million?
We started with
1.5, we
1.5.
now have 1.4.
Oh, we have 1.4.
So one could argue that
You're right,
we
you're
we may
right.
not get
14
out of
years.
time.
Right, right.
Or if we discounted more, we could sell them faster, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well-
Well, I think if you get near the end, and you still have them, you start.
Yeah,
Well,
we
and
get
we're-
like
and-
5 years to go, we might wanna stop.
And we're gonna have more,
Yes.
because,
We don't get that.
More
of the,
houses.
we're selling more houses in the city.
Huh?
Okay.
No, we don't, Nancy, we don't get,
The
that's
city.
a separate fund total.
Right, and then the city then.
That's
the-
a whole different deal, that not.
Yeah, no, because that's where this came from too. It came from the city to us.
I understand that, but
Will the city will we not get any more from the city?
I don't follow your logic, I don't understand.
Well, every
where you're going
house
with
that's
this.
sold, there's an impact fee sent to Fort Myers.
It's sent to the Fort Myers, they keep
Right.
it.
Presumably,
They
some
might
of that.
spend it within our area for fire
So, yeah,
improvements
there's,
with their
there's
station
no
or
obligation
something.
on their part to give Pelican Reserve any of that money.
No,
specifically.
they spend it, they don't give it to us to spend.
So where,
They're gonna
if they
spend it on
spend it, how
schools.
did we get this million and a half?
Right.
That had to do, I don't know, maybe you
That was
could
the
shed light on that.
firehouse.
Oh, the firehouse?
Firehouse.
Something to do with the firehouse?
I think that had to do with part of the bankruptcy, it came out of
No,
that.
uh-uh.
Did WCI build a
Had
firehouse?
nothing to do with, yeah, WCI put in the
So
firehouse.
that's, okay, that's how we got it.
That's
In
it.
any case.
Okay, all right.
I don't know where
Okay.
it came from, I don't understand.
Okay, the only thing I could find, right now was, this is what Tracy's explanation of what the 625 per month would cover. She said that, and it would repair broken or damaged irrigation items in the field. This addendum would include pop-ups, rotors, and lateral lines, which are pipes leading from the valve to the sprinkler. If this addendum were approved, they would also be able to include valve repair / replacement, which is usually about $250 per valve replacement. This includes parts and labors to install. And there are at least 72 valves in the community, not counting cul-de-sacs.
By other things.
So that's what she said that this would cover.
Right.
Now, it does not cover, according to the addendum itself, it said that they, there's no mainline breaks are not covered, and valves and valve filters and pumps and timers or any modifications to existing irrigation, meaning adding new zones or whatever, are not included in the, cost of the 625.
Well, I have the feeling that the sense of the committee is that we don't wanna do the 625, is that true? Where do people stand on that?
Well, does anybody know how this is working out in the neighborhoods? John, how's it working out in Portofino?
In regards to
The
our
irrigate,
irrigation, I mean, with Romero?
yeah, are we spending less because this new filter was put in?
I don't
think
think
so.
we
We're
have a
not-
good
we're
handle
not.
on that yet, because it was only done as in January or February, because I remember working with Tracy on this when we found out what the golf course did. We're still getting some problems, and I think it's less, Nancy, in Portofino, but to give a realistic answer, we haven't, it's been less than a year. What is it, 6 months since the new,
Right.
filtering system was put on the,
That's pretty, not noticeable in our neighborhood.
yeah, I don't think we
There may be
have
some
to
improvement, but John is right, it's only 6 months.
reduce the replacement of these heads. But our communities are old, we're gonna be replacing them anyway.
Well,
Well, would it be feasible to maybe have somebody from Ameriscape come to a meeting, maybe September or October, and really go exactly through what would be covered? Because it sounded to me, when I asked Tracy, well, do we need to sign this like before our fiscal year begins and, whatever, she said, no, she was told that we could sign it at any time. Now, obviously, if we sign it in December, they're not gonna warranty things or, pay for things that happened in October. But she made it sound like the 625 was gonna be something that just would, we could kind of see how it goes, and then we could say, okay, now we wanna implement the 625 from this point going forward. She made it sound like that was like not a fixed date, but more like whenever we decided to do it.
I have an idea, the golf course should have a good handle, because theirs would be for a full year.
Okay.
And they're as old as everybody else in the community. They didn't
Okay.
reduce their maintenance budget by going to this new filtering system.
Okay,
Look, we
I can
asked
check,
the golf
I can
course
check on that and
regarding
find that out.
budget.
yeah, Chris, could you check that?
Sure, and I can report back at next month.
Okay, we'll put this
Okay, I
back up.
think that was all of my, outstanding, questions from
That we-
last time, I believe.
We will put this item back on the irrigation R&M addendum back on the agenda for next month, Diane,
Okay.
okay? Any more questions on the budget?
Are we going to talk about all this money that we haven't allocated yet? It's like $400,000 worth of money that we haven't allocated.
When you say allocated, we
Well,
haven't spent.
there's, we think about 136,000 from this year's budget that's gonna be left over in that neighborhood.
Can we carry that over?
I'm
Yeah,
asking.
it goes under the pool.
Yeah,
if we do.
What are we gonna do with that money? We could apply it to reduce next year's budget, or we could stick it in reserves. There's another 117,000 extra that we're getting because of the ERU thing.
right.
What are we gonna do with that 117,000? There's 90,000 from that settlement. What are we gonna do with that 90,000? I mean, there's a lot of money sitting out there, guys, and
Well,
we haven't
and-
decided what we're doing with
In
it.
addition, there are the cushions, right, that we
Yeah.
haven't,
I don't think this is the meeting to do it.
I don't either.
Okay, what meeting is it?
It can be after the budget.
Yeah,
Well,
And then take a, when everybody has a
Here's my
chance to
view of the
think
world.
about it.
My view of the world is we've got over $300,000 that could be used to reduce taxes or pay legitimate bills and projects. Okay? I just don't want that money just spent without us going through it very carefully to decide whether we should allocate it to specific projects or whether we should allocate it to spending it on other bills, to reducing our tax burden.
I
Okay?
think we need to hear from Bob what the
Well,
water.
Being patient.
I was just gonna say, Bob, I was about to ask you to comment on that.
Well, since we had a record-setting financial report, for time. I was fondly remembering Ned's 40-minute presentations that I thought were long at the time. But I'll wait till we get to the ponds group.
Okay, well,
All right.
you know, apropos that, Chris, it seems to me that there are not only the funds that Ron has toted up here, but then we've also got these, I don't know, we call them cushion funds or what have you, that we don't think we need anymore,
Or may not need as
Well,
much
that's not
of.
part of that
may not need as
136,000.
much
No,
of.
no,
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 no.
That's different?
That's.
Substantially
That's
more.
that's outside this.
Okay.
Chris, could you for our,
What you have to realize though, and Bob and I have been kind of working on this, and because we're not in the same place or the same state, we're gonna work on this again, probably September, October, is we're trying to pinpoint, working with Stephen, about exactly how much pond money is left from prior years, like as many as 4 or 5 years ago.
yes,
That's a lot of
So
money.
what you have to realize is that, yeah, it looks like there's a ton of money sitting there, but if the ponds group has been budgeted or allocated those funds for specific projects that have not been done yet, that's why those funds are sitting there. They're kind of like what we want to have Stephen do is, once we all agree on what that number is we want to have like a ponds reserve number in addition to our regular, like, replacement reserves number.
That makes sense.
I think all of this
Yeah,
makes sense, but I
I
think
had
we need
spoken
to.
with Stephen, and to make sure that we have a fiscal methodology in which to capture those funds year over year and carry them forward and have them identified. And he assures me that he has that mechanism and that we are going to start doing it soon. Ponds has an accumulated, I'll call it a reserve for lack of a better word, of about $640,000. And the problem has been in an item such as aeration, that when we started funding it in 2012, and here we won't get it finished till 2016. So we are now currently committing the money. We committed $412 or $417,000 a couple weeks ago,
right,
and yet our current year budget's only $100. And but we do have enough money to do that without, tapping out a loan from some other place, considering that we got the refi money. So I guess what Chris is talking to is, we hope by October or November that in our monthly report, we will be able to have these carryover funds identified by a line item so that everybody the committee can see what it's on. And then I will tell you where the funds are earmarked.
Right, because ponds is a big part of that excess monies that are just sitting there because they hadn't been used from prior years. And we're just trying to make sure that we identify. And if you remember back from the June meeting, Bob had done that spreadsheet earmarking like all of what the pond budget numbers were and then what the expenses were for that year. I think going all the way back to I went back to 2010 in my stuff. I don't know if Bob went back quite that
I
far.
went to 11, 12.
2011. Okay,
Yeah,
2011,
11, 12, then 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15.
Right. So we're just trying to make sure that we're on the same page, and then Stephen is on the same page, and that we want to make sure that the number that we put out there, that everybody's in agreement with, that we can tie back to financials from the past, because, I wasn't around back in 2010, and just to make sure that these numbers are allocated appropriately going forward. I think that makes a clearer picture of in everybody's mind of what we have left to spare. In addition to that, we've committed to the Indian Hawthorne replacement, which I think was a 4-year or 3-year project. I can't remember, at 10 a year. I think, and with that whole Carina turnover and the lighting issue, I'm still not convinced that the monies that we have set aside for Cypress Grove and for tree line wall landscaping and electrical is really going to be enough. I think that's going to be like a learning process for us to figure out how much is it really going to cost us to maintain those two things. I know we've gotten some numbers from Ameriscape for those items. I'm just not convinced that in the future that it's going to be enough money. So there are going to be some I think, some substantial landscaping costs as well as electrical and probably irrigation down the road as well. And then there were things put on the table about new crosswalks to make it safer, in addition with bicycle lanes and moving some crosswalks, maybe not have that diagonal one at Trieste. So there are a lot of projects that could be put on the table, but I think first we have to identify what funds belong where, and then we'll know how much monies we're talking about going forward for those specific projects.
Okay. Chris,
Yeah, the
could
good
you?
news from my perspective in all of this exercise was that when we went to Stephen Bloom, he did recognize that the money was there. He did recognize that it is Pelican Preserve money. It is not ever commingled, and our money stays there because there was some concern in the transition from Meredith to Severn Trent that somehow we might have lost control of our money, and we have not.
Okay.
So that's the good news that came out of all that.
Chris,
Yeah.
could, for the next meeting, for our September meeting, would it be possible for you to summarize where we stand with all of these funds? In other words, how much we've got left over, if you will, from this year, the $90,000 that
Previous
we got
years.
back from previous years? Even if it's just preliminary and approximate, how much we've got and where you see that we have actually committed to spending some, and others that we have not committed to, but as you said, there may be things coming up where we will have to spend them. Would it be possible for you to do just a kind of a preliminary run at that?
Sure, not a problem.
I think that would be very helpful to the committee if you could do that, and then we would,
Okay.
because we would take into account all the stuff that Ron added here, plus the cushion funds, plus the funds that are there for ponds, so that we know, kind of get some idea of where we stand, because we know there's quite a bit of money, but I suspect there are places that we're gonna eventually spend it.
Yeah, right. I'm a little distressed
Okay.
that our cash management doesn't seem to be very good at the district level.
Mm-hmm.
This is another example now of hundreds of thousands of dollars, 400K floating around in the system someplace,
Mhm.
just sitting there,
Yeah,
okay? Which is unconscionable. It really is, Again, I can say it so many
Well-
times, I only say it so many times.
yeah, well, it seems
And
to
I
me.
don't know who's responsible for overseeing, the cash management process in this office. Is there anyone?
Not in this office.
Severn Trent.
Severn Trent.
Severn Trent.
Severn Trent,
Well,
yeah.
Stephen Bloom
they work
is-
for you, right?
I work for them.
He
You
works
work for
them.
but they work for the district.
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So the district has somebody that's supposed to be doing that.
Yes, and they,
And it just sounds to me like, Severn Trent, Severn Trent is new,
Yeah,
but in the past, we've had problems, and it sounds like we still have problems, because we don't have a handle on how to manage the funds.
well, I think that Chris, if you could give us this summary at the next meeting, it would
That
at
would be
least get
very
us an
helpful,
idea
yeah,
of
how much.
what funds we've got.
Yeah.
And then I think we're in a position, Herb, maybe to
Yep.
start addressing, are
Yep.
there some of those funds that we don't need for a while?
Mhm.
Could we be investing them someplace
Right,
or doing
right,
something
right,
with them?
right.
But I think your comment is well taken. Okay, anything else on this issue? We're sorry, Bob, hang with us.
You'll get your turn, Bob.
Okay.
It's just nothing else as interesting as ponds. I don't know. I just have a perspective here.
Yeah, okay. We're on to number 6, Bob French, we're sorry that we've kept you hanging for so
No
long,
problem. Not a
but
problem.
do you have any items you'd like to report to us about?
let me bring a microphone over here.
Oh, yeah.
So those on the phone can hear.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Is it this one?
Sorry.
We've said enough.
Take a fishing line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll just throw it over to you.
There you go.
Bill, can he speak up near the microphone?
And hang on,
Hang on, we're getting there, John.
we're getting there, John, we're relocating the microphone.
Now we got a nod. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Bob French with Securitas. A few things. I'd like to also announce an addition to my team, which is Dan Mucci. Dan is a branch manager with us here at Securitas. He is working with me on with Pelican Preserve, as we have lots of work to do. So I've asked Dan to help me in doing different items such as, one is to review those post orders that we've been working on and kind of find some closure to that project. So Dan is gonna be working with myself and the committee to get that completed. In addition to that, we're also working on a demo of the speed sign will be on
20th.
August 20th, correct, at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock or 9 o'clock?
10 o'clock or 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock will be the demo that we're gonna do on the speed sign to kind of make some decisions on the utilization of that device on the
This
property.
is, you guys are obviously invited to that. This is, came about when, in my working group's recommendation to actually buy the speed sign. This is a demonstration of that.
Right. And
Okay.
we've seen your recommendation and how much, yeah.
Right,
how much
yeah,
it costs.
and there's money in the budget for that
Right.
purpose, but,
Mhm.
you know, we wanna make sure that we're getting the right step with the right software that we can
When
use.
is- when is this?
The 20th at 10 o'clock.
Where?
And it's gonna be
Where?
at the management office.
Management office, correct.
Okay.
So
When
we'll,
you say
In the Welcome Center.
Welcome
It's the
center.
Welcome Center.
yep. So we'll go ahead and look at the speed sign to make sure it's the right fit, the software and the sign is the right fit for the community.
Right.
Before you guys decide to purchase one. But we'll go ahead and go through that as well. Other than that, I didn't have any other additional items other than focusing on post orders, the speed sign, and then introducing Dan to the group.
Mhm.
Can I,
Sure.
comment on the
Go ahead.
post orders? We've been reviewing those post orders and my working group has been doing that. We've gotten some input. I don't know if everyone on the committee has seen the revised post orders or not. I don't know if that's been out to everyone or not. I think,
I think
Diane,
you
could
only
you,
sent 'em-
yeah, could you have them, I think.
Everybody
it's-
has a copy.
Yeah, the one that I sent you to send
Is
Phil.
that in this package?
And it's in
No.
that packet.
Oh,
Yes,
is it in the
is.
package?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, yeah, but maybe you want them electronically versus hard copy.
Well, they have it electronic.
Oh, they do? Okay,
Why not?
well then you'll have it. What I'd like for you to think about around September 10th.
Yep.
If we can have a meeting to talk about them specifically.
That's the best way to do it. Let's have a round table and let's kind
Yeah.
of just work through
Yeah,
it.
now, if you guys have your comments in by then, that'd be great. I don't think that you all can come to that meeting, I don't think, unless we make it a public meeting, so there may be some issues there.
Exactly.
Okay, but if you have your comments in by then, I know I got some comments from you, but if we can get comments from the rest of the folks.
I gave you some too, I think.
Yes, you did, yes, you did, yes, you did. So, you know, we're gonna go through that, some of the folks in my working group are gonna be part of that meeting. So, we'll
Yeah.
confirm date and time, but tentatively, this, the 10th of September?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then we can work to get together with the working group and go through the, kind of the details.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
our next
complete that
meeting,
project.
isn't it?
Huh?
Oh, is
No,
that
ours-
yeah,
ours-
we could do that in the
Right,
morning,
right.
potentially, then we'll
Okay.
meet in the afternoon, and we can report back to you guys.
Mhm.
That's fine.
That's the same day as the meeting.
Great. Any other questions or concerns at this juncture?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, and I've heard this from a number of people, that everybody likes that new gate that goes, the new entry gate by the guardhouse.
Right, okay, great.
And as a matter of fact, I've heard more and more comments about people saying, why don't we remove the trap gate and just have a single gate there as well?
You knew
Right.
that was
And I
gonna
think it's,
happen.
I think it's time, I think it's really time for the community to take a vote on that.
Well, the issue is, do we want to have the community vote on it, or is it a matter of the supervisors?
We voted on it last time to put it in. I think we should vote on it again and see if the community wants it. Does anybody else want to speak?
Having the reader on the gate side, there is a person there watching it.
I realize
So-
all
so
that.
it's
I
a little bit
realize all
different
that.
than-
I realize,
You
I
know,
frankly
there's
think, and a
no-
lot of
there's no
people think,
trap
a lot of
gate.
people think the
Okay,
trap gate is
so
unnecessary.
I
There's
agree
no
with
evidence
you.
that it's made any difference.
Oh, it's made a huge difference. I beg to differ.
There you go, all right, so.
Okay. Let's wait till we get to Ron's report. Okay, any other questions of Bob? Bob, the one thing that, and Ron and I just, I think I put in my comments, is that it seems to me that as an adjunct maybe to the post orders, that we also need to take on what the rules are on capture.
That's good.
Because there's no question at this point that, how many permanent guests can you have? How long do they stay on there? Nancy, I think you brought up this issue at one of our prior meetings.
Yeah, of adding.
And I think,
list
I
is
think
growing.
that,
Yep.
that once we've gotten through the post orders, we need to take on the whole capture thing as to how that system operates. And
Okay.
what the rules are.
Sure.
Because it's confusing, people don't know, and I think it's something we need to address.
Yeah, I think we need to also add there, how passes, the monthly passes and semi-permanent passes are handed out.
Mhm.
Right.
To whom and all that
Okay,
good
yeah,
stuff.
because
and I
there's
would think
supposed
that
to
needs
be
to be
cash
part of
flow
That
coming
would be,
in.
that would be part of the
Yeah.
capture
Yeah, it's
thing.
supposed to be cash on some of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Supposed to be.
okay.
The good news to capture, there's flexibility, so if we don't like the way it's being done currently, we can change it, and I can make recommendations of what works best in other communities.
Mhm.
And, but it's flexible, that's the good news.
Yep.
So we can
Okay.
change that. So I'll make that note on the capture as well.
Okay. Any other questions of Bob?
Bob, just one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have, and I meant to give it to Crowley got out of town before I could give it to him. I have comments from the, can I just drop them at the gate for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Dennis has some.
I'm being hard, it went left.
Bob, thank you for sitting, hanging in there.
No problem.
We
Thank you.
appreciate both of you doing that. Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along now, now we
This
get
is
to the easy
related.
one.
This is related.
Well-
Nancy, the registration for golf carts on Pelican Road. That's-
Yeah, let me get this back. I need a microphone.
You need a microphone.
Yeah.
A medallion.
Thank you. I put this on the agenda because there were so many people out of town for the month of July. I don't know who on Ron's working group might have seen this, but, I personally think we need to have something in place anyway before all the troops get back. But there was, an incident at Seven Lakes where an 80-something-year-old woman was killed. She lingered in the hospital for like a few weeks, but anyway, she died. And it was a golf cart accident. There was an 8-year-old great-grandchild behind the wheel of the golf cart. Seven Lakes apparently has some rules that are similar to us. I don't know that they're all like ours. I don't know what their enforcement of the rules are. I don't know what happened, if anybody's been sued over it, or if it's even gotten that far. But I bring it up now because I think if we're gonna make changes, we need to be doing it before the registration period starts in January. But that somebody, Ron, on your committee, if they weren't aware of it, needs to investigate what happened at Seven Lakes and if it has any impact on what we might wanna do, because they have the same kind of rules of the road and nobody under 14 or 16 driving golf carts. And the great-grandfather was sitting beside, 97-year-old great-grandfather was sitting beside this 8-year-old, who was driving the cart.
It's a recipe for trouble.
Well,
Well, but,
Two.
huh?
It happens at Pelican.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
but
Right,
I
I've seen
have
those.
seen it happening here, I have seen young kids.
The key is going to be enforcement.
Yes.
Yes.
that is
It's
the
gonna be
key.
education and enforcement.
The rules are there, the police will not enforce those rules, we've already had that discussion.
Mhm.
So once you get past that, I would love to have suggestions on how you enforce the rules. I mean, how do you do it? If a cart goes by with a grandchild driving, it's obviously below age, and sometimes it's questionable. How do you identify who's in the cart, who reports it, and the person you're reporting to just accepts the information provided to them? or not?
Well, you've
You
got
see
a
what I mean?
you've got a
So-
working group.
Oh, I understand, but I doesn't mean that the community at large can't provide suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I agree.
But it's not let's just have enforcement. I mean, most of it is education.
I want
How
to
do you
problem
get
with
the
lots of
80-year-olds to not
educated,
let
right,
the
exactly.
grandchildren drive the golf carts?
A number on each cart.
There is a
Excuse me?
number on each card.
You
that's
can't read
registered.
it.
What I'm
Can't read
saying
it.
is,
So-
if you seen
so you
someone with a
can't read
kid
it.
go by and you seen a number that said 14, you didn't have to stop the cart and tell the people your kid shouldn't be, because sometimes I see where it's just the kid, there isn't even an adult in the cart. But if you had a number that said 14, you could take that and just turn that over to someone, and say
And do
cart
what?
number 14.
And do what?
Yeah.
Well, at
And
least
that's the
you know
question, do
who it
what?
was.
Well,
Do what?
You could at
Send
least,
Do what with it?
you could
At
at
least
least
send
go
a
back
letter.
to the person and say,
Right.
you shouldn't be doing this.
Or
But
you
that's,
have
you
been
know, it's not
observed
gonna
doing
stop.
such and
Yeah.
such.
It won't
Is
stop
that
everybody.
accurate? And force
I don't
them
know
to
what else
respond.
you do. You aren't gonna get a policeman or.
No, you're not.
No, they're not gonna do
We
that.
aren't gonna go out there and stop the kid.
Well, I don't, all I'm asking at this point is, I think the idea of readable numbers makes maybe a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think
But,
that was one of the things that Sarah and I were gonna talk about. We're setting up a meeting to talk about all these issues.
yeah, but.
She's brand new to the process.
But, also, if someone, I don't know whether Scott could help us with a contact over at, Seven Lakes on who over there, what their policy is, and if they have an enforcement system. But it sounds like they're a gated community with similarly situated people to what we are, cause they're definitely over 55 over there.
Well, I can tell you what they do in Heritage Palms.
I know what they do in Heritage Palms,
Okay.
but I don't know what they do
They
in
have one of their
Seven Lakes.
security people hand out tickets. That's what they do.
Zero tolerance.
And by the way, he doesn't hand it out for golf carts, cause he says he can't identify who it is, who's the owner and who's driving it.
Right.
And he's not gonna step out in front of the golf cart to stop him.
Well, but if,
Okay, but your comment, and that's and it's been
Right.
suggested already, that you have some way of identifying the cart with a number or letters or whatever,
Mhm.
as opposed to the small numbers that are there now that you can't read. Obviously.
Ron, I would suggest
So-
that, this is something that your group needs to.
Oh, yeah, we've got it there,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Include in the whole broad area of traffic safety.
Yeah, plus the information provided to new residents and renters and things, when they present it, here are the rules,
Mhm.
how you present it to them and so forth, make sure they clearly understand the rules,
Well, and they're,
you know.
we have no idea how many golf carts are in our community.
Correct.
Which is a big problem, and we don't know how many of them actually bother.
Well, I don't know
to
how big the
register.
problem is, but it's a problem.
Yeah,
That's the problem, we don't know
Yeah.
how big the problem is. Okay.
so, but anyway, that's why I put it on the agenda, cause I
Okay,
think we're
sure.
getting, it's August.
Yep. Okay. Association manager report, we'd like to, welcome Sarah Mabry as our new association manager. And, Sarah, good to have you aboard, and,
Thank you.
we look forward to having a good working relationship with you, as we did with Tracy, and, Mary Beth before her. So, you'll start getting an idea of the kinds of things we're working on and looking to you for. Do you have anything to report at this point?
Not at this point. I mean, I've been with Pelican now for almost 2 years, so I do have a little bit of history, so I think it'll be a very smooth transition.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ponds Work Group, Bob, you're on. Talk fast.
Wow. Okay, I really don't have very much today. The flowway had been clogged with aquatic growth due to the construction efforts to widen the flowway up where the new bridge is around the IBIS 3 and 4. We made a request of WCI to help us in paying for cleaning that, because we believe that the root cause was the construction and the fact that it made all the waters turbid and cloudy. And surprisingly enough, a vice president of WCI donated $3,000 towards the cleanup. So that cleanup is taking place as we are sitting here.
Okay.
We had a meeting this past week with the contractor who's going to be doing our washouts. And Doug Zanter represented Ponds at the meeting with Detra Al Harris of the district, and the contractor himself. It was originally awarded to a contractor by the name of Mark Pravat. He has had problems, so now it has been subbed out. And the work group agreed that we will start this work in October or November, as soon as the waters start receding. The money's previously been approved, we got the money, so there shouldn't be any issue with that. The $417,000 aeration contract has started. Areas have been identified for, I believe, the first 6 or 7 ponds. Communities have been notified. The work is ongoing. It started with having everything sprayed out on the ground to show where we're going to be doing borings and hooking up electric, et cetera. And that work is progressing. We have hit a snag with the city of Detroit, the city of Fort Myers, as we always do, in that they're trying to labor us with more permits and requirements and something called an ROW, and it's mostly their administrative BS, but we will work through it. We expect to continue and not lose any ground.
Bob, I don't know whether you read my report on the last GSCDD meeting, but Danny Nelson discussed that at some
Yes.
length at that meeting.
Yeah, I did read it, and I'm almost in daily contact with them and the suppliers, but we are moving forward. It's just at a glacial pace, but we will get there. On pond bank remediation, and this is specifically Armamax. Last year, if you recall, we did pond 25, 29 on Heron 2, and we used a product called GeoWeb. We have learned since then that GeoWeb is not as robust. It's a good product, but Armamax is even better. Unfortunately, Armamax costs quite a bit more, but the Armamax has a lifetime guarantee with it, and the district has chosen to use Armamax in gateway lakes and ponds, so we are just going to mirror that. And we have selected the next 2 areas to go. The pilot contract has been awarded to the gateway provider. We're just going to lunch off of them, and all I need now is a start date, because again, we've got money for it.
What ponds are those, the next 2?
Off the top of my head, Herb, I don't know. I know one of them is up by Sienna, and I think the other one is pond 20.
26 and 28.
26, 20.
The 28, okay, so those are
26
the 2
and 28.
ponds. And so we're working off the engineering priority list that was established a couple of years ago. And last but not least, we received an updated map of the community relative to the as-built of the ponds that they're building in the new Cypress Grove communities. And that's kind of important to us, so we got residents calling in complaining about a pond, and we can't even find it on the map yet because the maps weren't updated. So we now have that with all proper designations. We are moving forward with WCI to obtain as-built for what they have built, as well as a specific listing of which ponds they hope to turn over in the next quarter of this fiscal year. So there haven't been any surprises so far. It's just a question of making it happen. So that's all we have on ponds. It's all, relatively speaking, good news. To go back to the budgetary issues, I don't know if we got decided yet that the surplus funds, well, let me just put it like this, I will make a recommendation that any surplus funds that we generate as a result of the windfall money for ERU recalculation, that we put that money towards bank replenishment and replacement. And I don't know if most of the board realizes that the cost that Gateway has back out themselves into, I think they're looking at something like about $4 million to try and fix their ponds, because they were kind of a little late getting to the table. We are not in that type of a crunch, but it would save our community money the sooner we repair some of our more severe ponds than deferring them. We have ourselves probably a 10-year program to do it. The good news is we won't have any bad bonds coming to us from Cypress Grove, because we're not going to accept them if there's any issues. And all we really have to do is to just repair our existing bonds. So I would throw that out for consideration to think about it. And I'm not going to put it to a motion or vote on it now, but the next meeting that we have specifically to decide what to do with any of these excess funds, I will have an order for that on behalf of the bonds work group. I believe that my current calculation, and it's been confirmed with the budgetary people, we have about $685,000 that is sitting in our kitty, and most of it is accounted for. And, but we do have that money and we're gonna spend it, and we're gonna spend it as frugally as we can to get as much big bang for our buck. So if there's any questions for me, fire away.
Bob, I think your suggestion of using these funds for that is appropriate. By the way, my sense is that $4 million for Gateway is only phase one.
Yes, that's correct.
That they think.
It's gonna be significantly
They
more.
They think the
They've got
number.
a lot more problems over there than they realize.
Yeah, that they think.
And a very irate citizenry.
Yeah, and they think the number's gonna be a hell of a lot bigger than $4 million, so,
Yes.
yeah. Any questions of Bob? Okay, we move on to John, Capital Assets Work Group.
Yes, three things. First, Sarah, the Asset Work Group would like to welcome you in joining our committee. Because I don't know if Tracy mentioned to you, we do need your input on the Asset Work Group committee. Sometimes we'll just do some phone calls, but typically because I'm in New Jersey, we normally try to meet maybe once a month before the advisory committee meeting. So welcome. I hope you will join us.
Thank you.
Is Sarah there?
Yeah, she
Yes,
is,
she-
she's there.
she's not near a
She heard-
microphone.
She heard you and acknowledged you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. The second item, during our May meeting, David Caldwell, WCI, advised that the new proposed maintenance agreement should be reviewed. The review should be completed by WCI's attorney, Cohen and Grisby, by August. Well, of course, that didn't happen. When I contacted David, he did advise that he now has set up a meeting between Cohen and Grisby and Tony Pierce, and I believe it is a week from today.
That's correct. And not only is Tony gonna be there, but Tony invited me to be there.
Okay, very good. Hopefully it's just as most of you are aware, Tony Pierce did complete his side of the maintenance agreement by redlining the old agreement. And hopefully Cohen and Grisby don't have any real problem with it, but Bill, we will rate your comments after the meeting. The third item is the Exhibit B of the old maintenance agreement is a working document that we try to update, and with Sarah's help and with Tracy's help, Tracy had just completed the new Exhibit B, and I believe, Diane, you included that in the package for everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that should be in the package. You'll notice we took into account that each item now is numbered. There are 4 columns. One is the description,
Looks like
who it's
this.
shared with, who the owner is, who the future owner is, who currently has the maintenance, who future maintenance should be, and the last item is who it's funded by. So if there's any questions on that, I don't want to go through all, I think there's 80-some items on here, 73 items. But if anybody has any questions, fire away.
John, can we get that via email?
Diane, can you email that to everybody?
I
I
did.
thought you did.
She
I
did.
thought I asked you to email
It
that.
was, unfortunately, it was all in a big,
Yeah.
Huh?
You gotta dig through the attachment to find it.
I can send it again.
Well, Diane, I'm sorry, you're saying to email because everybody doesn't have it. Who doesn't have it? I can
No.
forward it.
No.
Well, no,
they-
Diane will send it again. She said she'll send it again.
I didn't get that.
Okay,
I didn't either.
okay, so Diane will send it again.
yeah, he did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any que-
And hopefully the reason that we're trying to get the new maintenance agreement approved is the old agreement was written right before and during WCI's bankruptcy. So I think it's very important that the, new agreement just be updated, and that's basically what Tony Pierce did.
Okay, but Exhibit B will continue to be a working document, is that
It's
right?
a working document. We will be updating that before each meeting.
Okay. Any questions of John? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Ron,
Okay.
Safety Security Work Group.
As it turns out, most of what I was gonna talk about, we've already talked about,
Okay.
which is good. I just gonna, as a summary note, our plan is to have changes, whatever they might be, to either post orders or the documents we provide to new residents, et cetera, those things in place before the new season starts. That's the plan. Now, that may change over time, obviously, but that is the plan. Things like, recommendations on the trap gate, things of that nature, how we should be communicating to the community. We have different ideas about how we might be able to improve that, things of that nature. I did want to update you one other item. This happens to be concerning the intersection between Trieste and Pelican Reserve Boulevard. As it turns out, the path coming out of the preserve that goes towards that intersection is actually owned by Sienna. Okay? I've contacted.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
The path that comes out of the preserve that goes towards that intersection,
Okay.
is actually owned by Sienna. All right?
Owned by Sienna, it's not WCI or?
Correct. If you look at the tax maps, and I've looked at it 3 separate times now, the last 100 to 150 yards of that path is owned by Sienna. It's not part of the preserve.
It's not. In
It's
other words,
not.
the part that goes by the preserve is
From,
actually
from,
owned by-
from the Trieste intersection
Yeah.
back
Back
about
into-
100 or
into-
so
into the
yards,
preserve.
that belongs to Sienna.
Okay.
Okay? I've contacted them concerning, my idea, our idea to straighten out that intersection. And the preliminary response I've gotten, not the final, but the preliminary one is no. What they would rather we do is not allow golf carts on that path, period. As opposed to straightening out the intersection and making it easier for golf carts to use the path. All right, so they've taken a different approach to this, all right? One of the things that came up is if they actually own the path,
Why don't
they
they do
should
it?
be able to control who uses it. I don't know that they understand that or appreciate that they could put some
Right.
blockage there to
Right.
say, no golf carts come through here.
Yeah.
Period, and that takes care of a good percentage of the problem with that intersection. Golf carts coming out and making left-hand turns.
Do that, Ron.
Well, that's a good question.
Let's say you decide to, not let golf carts go down to Bellagio.
Well, no, I don't own the road in Bellagio. Do I? Do I own the road?
No.
CDD owns the road. This is not a road, this is a
It's a path.
cart path. This is a path. It's not a road. It's not been turned over to CDD. Okay, you see the point here? So that's it. I'm gonna obviously have more conversations with them, but I don't know what approval level they might need to do that. But don't be surprised if you see signs popping up over there saying no golf carts on this cart path. Okay? So we're the follow on that particular issue. All right.
Do they own any other golf cart areas? I mean, path areas?
Well, they just own, according to the tax map, they just own about 100 yards of that path. The rest of it is part of the preserve that's owned by WCI right now. Okay?
Where is the cutoff, do you know? Is it around the corner? or-
Well, you know where the pond is?
Yes.
Behind them, it's right near that pond.
Near that
Is the
pond.
is where the cutoff is.
Wow.
Right near the pond. The pond is actually part of the preserve.
Right.
You
Okay.
know where that turn in to the preserve is? If you come
Yeah,
in from the other
it's
side.
before you
It's
get to
before
that
you even
turn
get to
in.
that turn.
Before you
Okay.
get to that turn into the preserve itself, the boardwalk area.
Okay.
Okay, but they own it up to Pelican Reserve Boulevard. So it seems to me
So
they
we
they
can't-
could
We
stop.
can't do anything we wanted to.
No, no, that's why I contacted them, because I would, obviously, we'd have to get their permission, and I don't know what the legalities would be in terms of how you documented all that stuff. But if they own it, they should be able to
Yeah,
control
right.
who has
It's true.
access to it.
It's true.
So more to follow on that one. All right, and that's it for me.
Are you aware that they're planning to do anything?
No, this is, I don't know that they were aware
Where?
that they owned it, quite frankly, it's
You
not
may have-
clear.
You may have opened Pandora's
Now they
box.
are.
Well, maybe not, maybe it's a
That'll fix the-
partial
that'll fix the
solution to the
problem.
issue.
We tried to
Fix the
put a
problem.
sidewalk at one time, they told
Or,
us we couldn't do
hey,
it because
Ron?
of reserve.
Wait, hold on for a second, Bob.
Take over the cost for, like repair of the bridge and things that services Sienna, because if they're gonna close that off to residents.
They don't own the bridge.
Golf carts, then I think we ought to close off maintenance of the bridge, maybe
They-
take it out.
They don't own the bridge. It doesn't go that
Yeah,
far.
I'm saying that we own the bridge, so this is a
We own the
quid
bridge.
pro quo, if they don't wanna have golf
It's not
carts
a
that
quid
have
pro- no, it's not.
historically been on there for 14 years, if they're making a change, then I would suggest we take out the bridge, we don't need the bridge.
Well, then pedestrians and bicyclists can't use the bridge if you take the bridge out.
Absolutely.
Well,
I mean, if we
okay,
disenfranchise one
I-
portion of the
I-
community, we should disenfranchise everybody.
I-
They're the ones that are making the change.
They
Nobody-
haven't done anything yet, Bob. Let's not jump to.
No, I'm not saying they did, but we're talking, right? We're talking like
Yes.
maybe they will.
Well,
I mean, there's consequences, reactions to everything.
okay, but, all right.
Yep. Don, you had a comment?
We tried to put a sidewalk out one time and they said we couldn't do it because it was along with the reserve, so I'm really astonished on it.
I'm sorry, a sidewalk where?
We have no sidewalk that comes out of Sienna.
Oh, yeah,
The
it
actual
connects
drive.
to that.
We wanted to put one through there and they told us we couldn't do it.
Well,
That is the preserve.
if you know how to get access to the tax map? Because it shows clearly what it is that Santa owns, so there's no requirement to ask permission of WCI if you own it.
And as
So-
far as what
Well,
you
you have
said
to get an
about the
architectural
golf
review.
carts.
Well, that's a different issue, I think.
To answer Bob's
Let's do it
question,
reserve.
you can still run the golf carts on there, they just can't walk through the road to our
I
house.
couldn't hear that last comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
You could still have golf carts on there, they just can't go out from the road there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just
You'd
block
have
it
to
before
come
you get to
across
the
it
end.
The other way.
Yeah.
So if you're coming from Trieste, you can't get to the, say, the tennis courts for Sigel.
That's true.
Right.
Yes, you can. You can go down Pelican
You can
Reserve
go down-
Boulevard,
Go down
up to the
Pelican
reserve
Reserve
that way.
Boulevard.
You can go on the street like they should.
I'm talking about getting there, Herb, the way
Yeah.
people have for the last 15 years.
Well,
Are you telling me you want to get there quicker that way?
yeah, well, like you said, Bob, it's a trade-off.
Yeah, there's a
There's a
whole lot of
trade-off.
precedent. We got a lot of people that live on the other side of that road that have been using it for years.
I'm only gonna
Well-
And now you're gonna go and change it because you say we don't own it?
Well, you know.
Bottom line
that's-
is that we don't own it.
Yeah.
We don't own it.
Okay, well, I
Wanna follow.
suggest that, we don't address this unless it comes into.
Nothing we can do.
Unless it comes into
I'll
play.
buy that one.
No, nothing we can
Okay.
do.
All aboard.
Okay. Any more questions of Ron? Okay, we're at the GSCDD attendance schedule. I saw only 3 future meetings listed on the website. The 20th of August, oh, you got
The
more?
new one is getting posted probably today by Severn Trent. I have it.
Okay, well, the 20th, there's a 20th of August meeting. Any volunteers to cover that one?
I think I can go there.
That's the one where the budget?
Yes, I think, I will probably go to it because of the
Okay,
budget.
that's right. Yeah.
So I will
Okay,
cover the
okay.
20th.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind covering it, but you're more current than I am on the budget.
Yeah,
right
okay.
now.
I will
Yeah,
go to
makes
the,
sense.
I will go to the 20th meeting.
When's the
Then
next
there's, next one is the 3rd of September. 3rd of September.
I can go to that.
Um,
Huh?
I can go to that.
Herb?
I'll be here.
Herb for the 3rd of September.
I believe I will be here.
Okay, then there is the 17th of September. There's the one following that. Am I correct on these, Diane?
Yes, yes.
17th of September.
I'm out of town.
Anybody?
Whoops.
Going once, going twice?
I would rather do the 3rd than the 17th. I can do both of them, but I'm leaving the next
Okay,
morning.
I can do the 17th.
Wait a minute, hold on here.
Okay.
All right, put me down for the 17th of September.
Oh, you can do it, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, so 20th of August is Phil, 3rd of September is Herb, 17th of September is Bob,
And then it's October 1st and 15th.
and then it's October 1st and 15th.
I can do the first.
Nancy can do the 1st of October. Okay, anybody can do the 15th? I know I cannot, I will be out of town. In fact, I'll miss our October meeting.
If I am back, I can do it. I will alert you next meeting. I should
Okay.
be back by the 15th.
Okay, that's far enough out that we can address that one at the next meeting. So we're out to the,
Pelican is tentative if I am back.
okay.
Or
we're-
did you
we're-
want the first and I'll take the 15th and John can just deal with it when he gets there?
Well, John and I will work it out.
What?
Oh, okay,
Who
cause you
does
could
the
have the
15th?
first and I can do the
Okay.
15th.
John and I will
3
take
Okay,
o'clock.
so it'll be,
I cannot
The
do
meeting
first,
start at
so
3?
I will not
Yeah.
be back the first.
Two?
I'm gonna be-
okay. Why don't we leave it through the 1st?
Oh, you're talking about board meeting?
Yeah, the board
I'm
meeting,
sorry,
3, right? Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Why don't we leave it through the 1st of October, and at our next meeting, we can settle the dates going into
Yeah,
October.
okay.
So we're,
Either John or I will
we
do it.
we've got it covered through the 1st of October. Nancy, you're gonna take the 1st.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. Committee member requests and audience comments, the only thing I don't know, it's not a request, but just a report, I attended, president's meetings, on Monday, and it really revolved around two things. Number one, there is an architectural, a group working on rules for, new architectural rules for the community. It didn't sound like they're working at warp speed, but nonetheless, they are gonna be coming up with new architectural rules. The other thing that came up was the problem of oak trees, something that Herb is intimately familiar with, and the problems that live oaks are causing in a lot of the communities that have them.
Sidewalks don't like them.
And how difficult they are to remove, or to get permission to be removed.
Right.
Um,
Although some people are just taking them out.
Yeah, yeah.
Asking for forgiveness.
Yeah, just like the people who took out the tree for the Eagles. Any other committee member requests, audience comments? No, I'm not seeing any. Hmm? Gail? Gail, could we ask you to step up to the microphone? I'm sorry to do that to you, but, or take
Well,
the
bring the
microphone to Gail.
microphone to her.
Bring the microphone to
should
Gail.
reach.
It should reach.
Depends on how big that knot is.
There you go, there you go.
Okay.
I have a hose there.
My question was, when you reported about the tree lighting, the uplighting at Colonial and Tree Line, what about Colonial and Pelican Preserve Boulevard?
That is another project.
That's a totally different one?
That's a different project.
Oh, okay,
I believe. Am I correct about that, Chris?
That's, as far as I know, yes. That's what Tracy told me where it was. It was at Colonial.
You see, I thought, huh? That was,
I thought-
I thought it was supposed to be at the front gate.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
that's what I
That's what we're
thought
talking
too.
about.
Yeah, can we check on that?
Yeah, she had, when I asked her about the pending projects, because she wasn't gonna be here at the meeting today, she said uplighting at Colonial entrance monument signs has been completed, so I will double check with her on that.
And we paid 4,000 for that?
We haven't gotten the bill yet, but that was what was estimated.
I thought,
was
I
4,000.
thought that was, that was supposed to be done at the entrance gate.
Right.
At Pelican Reserve Boulevard and Tree Line.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I will double check, maybe
Yeah.
that was just a typo on her part. I
Yeah.
will find out, unless Sarah's still there and she knows.
Sarah, do you know?
No, I just saw the email that Tracy sent regarding
Yeah,
that, so
yeah.
I'll have to check with her.
Let's recheck on that, because I think that was, I mean,
Yeah.
we selected
Yeah, right.
a particular setup for the entrance gate, is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay, well, let's check on that. Gail?
Okay, I will check on it, and then can I communicate that back through Diane?
That's fine.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, through Diane. Go ahead, John.
All right, we were trying to get WCI to pay for better uplighting at the corner of, Tree Line and Colonial.
Yes,
And one of the major problems had to do with the lighting there going through the fountain was so old, you couldn't even see any lighting near the fountain, especially if you compared it to, you know, the other communities, how they have such gorgeous uplighting at their fountains and at their monuments. WCI was, well, our hope was, and I don't know what the outcome was, that the sales group was gonna budget to redo some lighting at that corner.
okay.
I don't know what the status is. Maybe Sarah can double check, or I will work on that when I get back. Because I'd love them to pay for it. I think it's to WCI's advantage to increase that lighting area.
Yeah. In fact, maybe we can ask Sarah if you would follow up on that question rather than having Chris having to do it.
Absolutely.
If you would follow up on where that lighting is and also on the.
At the president's meeting,
I can shoot her an email, because I'm right at my computer, so
Okay.
that's not a problem.
Okay.
at the president's
Because
meeting.
I just want to make sure, I think I have back in my notes somewhere from a previous meeting, actually the quote, that showed some diagrams, about it too.
Yes, exactly.
It's correct.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
At the president's meeting, did they say anything about a monument on the other side of our entrance off from Tree Line?
No.
Cause I had heard,
Oh, I think they niched that.
WCI.
Huh?
W
think what,
WCI
John?
did that, John?
Yeah, I think WCI decided they didn't want to get involved with another monument at, at the corner of Tree Line and Pelican Preserve Boulevard.
Mhm. That was coming, so that there would be one if you
One
were
each
coming up
side.
from the south, is that it?
Mhm.
Right. I
and
mean,
the,
maybe that could still be reviewed. Again, it'd be great for WCI in terms of,
Advertising.
mhm.
it sells to pay for it.
Mhm.
And the other question, now I think about it, is did they have an update on when the traffic light?
No,
It's gonna
they
be
did
in.
not have an update. At the prior meeting, I think it was discussed, and sometime before the end of the year was what the answer was.
Yes, that's been the answer.
That's
been
been,
the-
yeah, that's been the answer, but.
And that's
been
part
the
of the
answer.
problem, it's
Yeah.
the same
I
answer.
think,
It's like,
I think they really don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right
So they
about
can
that.
just roll with it.
They really don't know.
Let me add one point that I didn't add before. Anybody who drives down Cypress Grove, if you notice, the cart crossing sign has nice lights on it now, that flash. Okay, there's a camera that spots traffic coming up, and on both sides of Cypress Grove, which I think is a great addition.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've already asked Sarah, and I had mentioned it to Tracy and Joe Smith, though Joe's is out of town at the moment, the excess cart crossing signs that they now have there, because they got 3 on each
Yes,
side now.
right.
That they're gonna move them hopefully down Pelican Preserve Boulevard to where Heron 3 crosses over to Heron 4.
Okay.
Because there is no cart
That's
crossing
right,
sign
right, right.
in one direction, so
Yeah.
hopefully they'll just move 2 of those signs down there.
Good,
So that'll solve one of those
that
little
sounds
issues we
good.
had.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, the next meeting will be September 10th. A motion to adjourn?
Move?
Second.
The meeting is adjourned. Bob, we only missed our quota by 11 minutes.
Bob
He's
had
got
me-
it ready.
Bob had me really
He signed
scared.
off at 4.
Bob, 2 hours and Bob's gone. Chris, John, thank you.
Thank you.
That it's on the text that they own it?
No, I meant, did you talk to Lou or?
Yeah, oh yeah, talked to Lou, sent him an email, I got a response from him and 2 other gentlemen, who I assume are on the board.
No, this thing with the golf carts.
Ralph
thinking
Cox
about
was
it
one of them, and
after
somebody else, so
discussion.
I had gotten.
And in a way, that idea
As I say,
of
it's.
somehow being able to.
No,
identify writing a
this
personal
is
letter.
like the last day.
Keeping that letter on
So
file.
like I said, it's just
It may not do
It is
anything,
right there on
but
the corner.
if the river isn't accessed.
Well, he talks about there's like a blind turn there, which quite
Letter's on
frankly,
file,
I've
and,
never really
you know,
noticed.
And heard what I think on that. I mean, you're never gonna
Person
cover
that would
everybody.
save about $1,000 a year on bridge.
Some people will some people won't. Some people.
Well, nevertheless, the record is, this letter's on file, the letter's on